store. Okay. It's 2 minutes off, so.
You ready?
Yep, at 6, that clock's off.
Clock doesn't work.
Okay.
Unless I put it 10 minutes ahead, it's always gonna be.
Yes, sir. All right. The hour is 6 p.m. This is the time and date set for the Roy City Planning Commission of December the 10th, 2019. Notice having been duly published and posted. We will open the meeting by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise and join Commissioner Spar in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Well, at least we don't have pitchforks in the tonight, huh? Okay. First item on the agenda is a declaration of conflicts. I'm assuming everybody has read the agenda. Does anyone have a conflict to declare? There being none, we will move on to item number 2, which is approval of the November 12, 2019 regular minutes. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the November 12th, 2019 regular meeting minutes.
Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? There being none, the minutes are approved. We will move on to item number 3. Item number 3 is a public hearing that will be held to consider amending Title 10 of the zoning regulations, Chapter 17, Table of Uses, allowing cannabis production establishments and medical cannabis pharmacy as permitted uses. CH Chapter 31 definitions. Mr. Parkinson.
I give a brief history.
Please.
November 2018, there was a ballot, or a thing on the ballot for state of Utah to vote on, Proposition 2, which would be to legalize medical marijuana. It passed. The legislation then went in to a special session to write bills of how all this should work. Not that to take away those rights, but really, how many pharmacies, how many production places, where can they be, where can't they be, things that, the details of where the proposition didn't get into. So what you have before you is basically those details. The way the bills, and I say bills because there was at least 5 of them, that talked about the cannabis production establishments and medical cannabis pharmacies, where they can, what zones they can be in, how close they can be to residential, how close they can be to community locations. So with the cannabis production establishments, the state, knowing that that's more of a manufacturing type use, said that they should be in any manufacturing, they have to be in a manufacturing zone or equal to, and then the cities need to dictate which one or all of them. So within ours, we looked at both with only 2 zones, light manufacturing, we looked at just saying, okay, permitted in the manufacturing zone. Cities do have the ability to eliminate it in some, but can't eliminate it altogether. The medical cannabis pharmacies are allowed in retail or commercial zones. So wherever you allow retail sales or retail stores, medical cannabis pharmacies are to be located as well. Zones that they will not or cannot be allowed in are what they call primary residential zones. Again, by definition, it's just if it's primarily residential, the pharmacy is not gonna be, can't be within that zone. So we identified 5 zones in which those could be in: the CCRC, light manufacturing, manufacturing, and business park. On there it says recreational as no, because again, that's not really a commercial zone. The only recreation zone we have is the golf course. So we didn't feel it was appropriate there. Again, location-wise, or how close it can be, the production establishments can be within 600 feet of a residential zone and 1,000 feet from a community location. We'll define what community locations are in just a bit. Both this and the pharmacy, it's one or the other. It's not just 600 feet away, it's 600 feet from walking. So again, like alcohol establishments that serve alcohol have to be a certain distance away from schools and such. There's ways around it. If you, walking wise, it takes, it's farther. So that's really how these are established as well. Even though the business might be right next to a residential zone, but it's gonna take you 3,000 feet to get to the actual residential zone, they're like, what's the difference? So those distances do have some variation according to state code. Pharmacy, again, is 600 feet from a residential zone or 200 feet from a community location. Pharmacy is the only one that really has some other stipulations. The door basically has to be in the front, not on the sides, so it's facing the street, and then hours of operation. So definitions is the next chapter that we needed to amend. Again, put in our ordinance, what is cannabis? I really wanted to just put what one of the bills had mentioned. It just says it's marijuana. Plain and simple, one word, make it easy. But when you go to another one, and I can't remember, actually, it's like section 58, the Cannabis Act or whatever, gives you this big, long definition that you see before you now. So we felt, well, let's put it all into our ordinance rather than having to refer you to another section of the state code. So you get a longer paragraph than just a marijuana. Because in Title 58 of the state code, it has this definition. Then we define what a cannabis cultivating facility is, a cannabis processing facility, cannabis production establishments. Within that one, it defines that it's a cannabis cultivating facility, cannabis processing facility, or an independent cannabis testing laboratory. So we've got those definitions as well. A community location is a public-private school, a licensed child care facility or preschool, a church, public library, public park, or a public playground. So again, you can't be within certain distance, so a production establishment has to be 1,000 feet away from a community location, where the pharmacy is 200 feet. And then we define what medical cannabis pharmacies are. So that really is what the ordinance is before you.
Okay.
Any questions?
Anybody question?
Forgive my ignorance on this one, but, not have me turned on. Yes.
Wow, we muted them all. That's great.
Let's talk loud. Yeah, we're good. It's on now.
Okay.
Forgive my ignorance on this subject, but when it comes to the pharmacy locations, does the medical marijuana not specifically only sold from commercial pharmacies, or is this a separate only establishment, kind of like liquor stores where cannabis is going to be sold?
It can be its own
Stand up.
separate location.
So it can be either or? Can it be a pharmacy from, say, you go to Walmart and do it?
The state statutes didn't talk about being a combination of other pharmacies. This is strictly medical marijuana.
And I believe they separated that out in the special session to where it would not be part of a regular pharmacy. I may be wrong on that, but
Yeah,
that's my
again,
understanding.
the ordinance that I read, and this is just the past ordinance, so it didn't say it could be a combination, so.
So
I can
set up
definitely
like
look.
the liquor stores then,
Yeah.
typically? Okay. All right, that was the only question I had.
Okay. Then we will open this meeting to a public, yes, to a public hearing. I will entertain a motion to do so.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll call.
Who's second?
Claude?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We're good. All right, this meeting is now open to the public. Anyone that wants to come and address us on this issue, please come up to the microphone, state your name and your address. And the young lady that just walked in, we're talking about medical marijuana establishments. If you're here to talk about that, you may come up to the microphone, state your name and your address after this gentleman does.
My name is Kevin Homer. I live at 5398 South 4000 West.
Okay.
I came here to see who else was going to step up and say something about this, because it's interesting to me. I am very appreciative, Mr. Parkinson, of your analysis of what's happened in the past and also some of the definitions that are going on. I looked through Title 10, Chapter 17, just within the last couple of days. It's very interesting to see some of the other businesses that we already have in our table of businesses here in the city, and I'm actually glad to see these particular things coming as an option to our city. I would encourage everyone here to think of it as another opportunity for a free market to be expanded here in the city. I would encourage us to refer to this as cannabis and not marijuana. Marijuana includes the THC hallucinatory components of the plant marijuana. That's not what we're trying to set up here. Cannabis for medical uses.
CBD.
And I will be glad to see that come. I don't ever plan on using it myself, but I have family members that are in dire need of it. And the more that we have available here in our city, I think the better off we will be. Thank you.
Appreciate the comments. Anyone else want to talk about this subject? There being none, Mr. Parkinson,
Move to close.
I'm going to close the meeting first. Okay. I'll accept a motion to close the public meeting.
I move that we close the public.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Or roll call?
All in favor?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There being none, the public meeting is closed now, Mr. Parkinson.
Yes.
Sir,
Do we have any questions?
you have inquired.
I don't have,
Do you have anything to add? I mean,
he didn't really have a
I
question.
I like that gentleman's comment.
He didn't really have a
if it-
question to answer, he just had the statement, so.
Yeah. If he, if you're a little taken aback, I tell you what, when I joined the district attorney's office in 1974, I never expected I would be talking about this in a public session. Okay. Therefore, I think we need to, any questions from any of the
Commissioner.
members of the commission? There being none, then we should have 4 motions.
One.
One motion that includes all of those?
No, those are 4 options.
These are options.
The first 2 are approved, but one's as presented, the other one as amended, if you guys want to amend something. The other one is to table, and the other one's to deny.
Okay. Does anyone have a motion that they want to approve regarding this subject?
I'll make a motion that we move forward item number 3 with a favorable recommendation to the city council, which is amendments to Title 10 zoning regulations, Chapter 17, Table of Uses, allowing cannabis production establishments and medical cannabis pharmacy as permitted uses, and Chapter 31 definitions as presented.
Is there a second?
Also,
I'll second.
Now we have a roll call. No. Okay, all in favor?
No.
Roll call vote.
yes, roll call. I'm sorry,
I asked and
Because
was
it is.
told the wrong thing.
because it
Okay.
is a change.
Commissioner Callie,
Aye.
Chair Brand,
Yes,
Commissioner Bills.
Aye.
Instead of writing yes, I wrote Bills. Commissioner Ashby,
Yes, aye.
Commissioner Payne,
Aye.
Commissioner Spar,
Aye.
Commissioner Mifflin,
Aye.
Mifflin,
Mifflin.
sorry.
It's okay.
And it passes 7-0. Hasn't been scheduled yet with the city council, probably be one of the meetings in January.
okay. Yeah, it makes sense. All righty then. We're going to move on to item number 4, which is to consider a request for site plan approval of Spot Estate Townhomes located at approximately 4550 South, 1950 West.
4580.
I'm sorry?
4580,
The address,
just for the record.
4580 South, 1950 West.
Mine says 40, okay.
Should be
Oh.
4550.
Forgive me.
It should be 4550.
50, okay.
Well, thank you, guys.
We're paying attention.
No, okay. The applicant for this, here. Yes, okay. Same routine, state your name and where you live.
Nathan Alvey, I reside in the city of Kaysville. Do you want exact address or?
That's good enough.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity of being here with you tonight. I have a couple images on here. I don't know how many images you have for discussion point, or if you want to.
Well, give me what you got. Maybe. Okay.
So I am not a professional engineer. I wasn't certain if we were going to have any of those documents from Pinnacle Engineering here tonight, but I have a couple. Is the PDF not coming up?
Okay, I'm just gonna download, get that off. I see it. I don't know what you guys don't.
Steve said he was going to approve this with open arms, so that's all we need to know, right?
Unless someone's smarter than me, why this is not showing up?
Can you drag it across? Is it a dual desktop?
Right across what?
So if you have it on your screen now, just
Uh-huh.
try dragging it either to the left or the right and see if it comes up on the. There it is.
Wow, okay.
It's like one fell swoop on things.
Swipe right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so you can probably just go to the next one. This is just a general aerial view. Next one down just kind of shows the specific area that's being proposed. This was 3 lots previously. I represent ownership in the northern lots and everything that you see in red. We do not own the southern 2 lots, but we purchased the western portion of their lots from them. So the area you see in red there accounts for just over an acre. And between the red area you see there, we're proposing 4 lots. There were some previous lots that were sold off and were not approved by the city. So we're trying to clean that up in the process here. So there you have the concept plan of the proposed 4 lots. And then this here is a visual of what would be proposed for some additional 12 townhomes on that 1 acre. Just with the hammerhead turnaround. And then I apologize for those images there. This was just an idea of the type of structure we would be building, a 3-story townhome where we have a 2-car garage for each unit on the main level, and then 2 additional living areas above that. So we can bounce around between images and answer questions regarding the proposed project. We have some memos regarding the engineering and the site plan from the city, which we're in the process of trying to meet with our engineer and get those resolved. But general idea, we are fans of single-family homes, and even though these 12 units would be built and be owned by a single owner, they're larger townhomes than the ones that we're adjacent. We're just to the south of another 76-unit project that went in. And we would be building similar to those. We would just be building a slightly larger unit. We think the demographics of the state of Utah here require, more 4-bedroom units than a lot of the typical 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom units that you get in a multi-family housing situation. So we're trying to find our niche in a larger townhome.
Anything else you want us to know right now? Why should we vote for this?
Roy City's been kind to, I represent 50% ownership in this project. We have a few other rental properties in Roy, and we've enjoyed being in Roy and looking forward to continue to invest in the city.
These are going to be rental townhomes, or they're going to be townhomes
They
for?
purchase or rental.
They're being proposed right now to be rentals. They could down the road potentially, I haven't proposed this with Steve, but down the road they could potentially be individually divided off with some additional approval. But they're being built so that they could be individually owned. But at the time, we intend to hold on to all 12 units.
Are you going to have a homeowners association?
I don't know if that's required for a single owner.
I didn't say it was required. I was asking you, is that your plan? Not at this time.
It would be 100%
fine.
ownership, yeah.
Okay. All righty.
I have some questions, but I
Sure.
probably want to hear from Steve before I ask him. Just the application, there were some things that weren't quite complete in there.
Oh, yeah.
Parking being one of them. You mentioned that it would have a 2-car garage inside of the unit. As part of
Correct.
it wouldn't be detached.
Yeah, so we're aware we need to have 2.5 parking stalls per unit. We're proposing that each unit would have 2-car garage, so there'd be covered parking, and then we have 8 additional guest parking spots that are uncovered on the site.
And with that, would that meet the setbacks if they're part of the unit, or, because that was one of the questions that was raised in the staff report, is whether there was enough parking in the site. With those two being part of the actual unit, does that make it possible, or is there still a limited number of, would it still be impossible for them to do it?
I'll answer that in my presentation.
Okay, I'll hold the rest of mine, because I think after you present, then that would clarify some of the questions with that I have.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Should have let Steve present first.
Nope. Uh-huh. Whoops. I don't want that one, I want this one. Okay, as mentioned, this is just south of Orchards at 19, west of 1900 West, behind the three homes, well, two homes and an old business, and then just east off of 4550 South. Site plan wise, they're proposing 12 units. It is just over an acre, so our ordinance allows for 12 units. To clarify Commissioner Cowley's question, at the time when I got the information, I did not have elevation, so that's why tonight it's just site plan approval only, because architecturally, we didn't have anything to present to you. So within the DRC and the staff memo, it just says no elevations to review, so we don't know what's gonna happen or what they're gonna look like. So at the time, I didn't know if it was 2-car garages, 1-car garages, or what have you, so that's why in the parking portion of the DRC, it just says lack of parking space. If each unit has 2-car parking, then that should resolve the parking issues, at least number-wise, other than, 2 within the front yard setback. So those type of things we'll reevaluate once we get the elevations to review. But as mentioned in the staff report, yes, the list is long, but because there was a lot of unknowns with the building on what the site could and couldn't have. None of them, I don't think, would warrant denial of the project. In fact, you can't deny it anyway, because as long as it meets the ordinance. Site plan wise, yes, there's a few issues. Like every project, there's things that you gotta work through. You do your best to try to conform to all the ordinances and stuff. Not everybody's been, is perfect at it, so you always have a second review. So I don't feel that there'd be anything that we couldn't get around or do. Even if, worst case scenario, it's 11 units rather than 12 because of landscaping and open space requirements, but those are things that staff can work with the developer on. So my recommendation would be is to approve the site plan with the conditions as stated in the staff report. Did I answer
Commissioners,
You did.
Commissioners have a question?
So this would need to come back for the architectural approval.
Because I didn't
anyway.
have anything until tonight, so. And it wasn't advertised for architectural review.
I'm okay with it coming back. Okay. Anybody else?
I have a question. So you said that these might be owner occupied, but you're not sure. You're going to figure that out down the road. Are you doing some research as to why you prefer to have these rentals and maybe a higher turnover rate, as might be the case with rental properties?
The plan is for these to generate some monthly cash flow for retirement purposes. Everything you purchase, eventually someday you want the option to sell. So whether the question is when that day comes, 5, 10, 20, 30 years down the road, if we would sell it as a single owner project, or if we would look into the option of dividing them into individual units and selling them off as individual units. But right now, the the purpose of the owner is to hold on to them for some monthly cash flow.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else have a question?
Which the 75 units to the north of them are rentals. So, there's nothing in the ordinance that says it has to be owner occupant or rental, so.
So, Mike, I have questions, Steve. There are 4 or 5 different things here: trash collection, parking, landscaping, all of that. When they come back for their next round of approvals, we will have that done by that time. Is that correct?
Well, most of the items that are there, again, are just what the ordinance requires. So if, a landscaping plan is required, but this body doesn't necessarily approve it, we don't have landscaping requirements other
But
than.
we approved that they have a landscaping plan, correct?
Well, yes and no. You're approving more of the site plan itself, the layout and how it's presented.
Okay.
Landscaping plan, if they put one tree and a bunch of sod, it meets our ordinance, or if they do all
Then we will.
lava rock, it meets our ordinance. So our ordinance just says you have to have a landscaping plan and irrigation.
Okay,
They just didn't provide it, that's why it's in there.
okay.
So as soon as they provide one, that goes away.
My other question that you put forth is about how they're going to collect trash. There's nothing in the plan that says they're going to have dumpsters, so I'm assuming everybody puts stuff out on their own?
That's what we assume is trash cans will be available for each one of them.
Back up.
So, the people to the north, that's how they're doing it.
Okay. And I also understand that they have to contract with whoever's going to be hauling trash. Is that also
Yep.
true?
Because it's a single project, even if they were owner occupants, it would.
It would still be
because-
the same?
Yeah, they'd have to
Okay.
provide their own trash.
Are you aware of that, of what we just said?
So we view we're very early in the stages of this development project. Bottom line, I think, as I try to answer your question, is we want our future residents of these properties to have pride and feel like it is their home. The definition of a single-family home here in Utah is changing as we're running out of places to build. And so, again, we're trying to be a larger townhome, which would replace your typical entry-level type of home. So we would view these as 12 individual homes, even though it has a single owner.
Yes. My point, I want you to understand that you're going to have to present us with something of what your plan is going to be for trash pickup, or who you're going to contract with. Because, or you gotta have dumpsters. We need to know that.
Absolutely, basic necessities,
Okay.
absolutely.
And you'll come back with all of,
Yeah, I don't know that we need to know who he's going to contract with. We just need to know that that's taken care of, and we've got ordinances in place that would require that there is trash collection there. Is that correct?
I don't think it's a requirement, but we have previously left things in the ether about, okay, you're gonna contract with somebody, and they don't. And that's not good for our planning, and it's not good for this council or our other council. And so I'm kind of the opinion that I kind of want it finished of what they're going to do. I don't care if it's XYZ Corporation, that's not what it is, but if they have a contract in place that they're going to do it because they have to pick up trash, that's a health and safety issue, which is appropriate for this board.
Our ordinance just requires trash pickup. We don't request a contract from them. If they showed a dumpster, it would just be assumed they'd find a
So it
contract.
becomes a code enforcement issue then? Is that what you're saying?
So as long as they say
Okay.
that each individual home will have its own trash receptacle, and yes, they're aware that they need a contract with whichever trash company.
To pick it up.
Yep, location of a dumpster, something like that is something we could
Yeah,
look
you-
at, but as far as the collection, that's really up to
Again, the project to the
the
north.
property owner. It's a
each individual
requirement
has
in our
their own
code
can.
that they have to provide that service.
Okay.
Did
that the same with snow removal? Because that question was in there
Yeah,
too.
they just need to provide what they're gonna do,
Okay.
so.
All right. Any other questions?
Yes. So if these are 4 bedrooms, I'm assuming there'll be quite a few children, or maybe at least 2 or 3. What kind of a facility do you have for those kids, like a basketball hoop, playground, anything of that nature?
Yet to be determined based on our water retention requirements. We'd like to have a little bit of a playground or something out in some open space, but that will come down to what is available after we meet all the requirements for a project like this. Again, I don't know how many times we'll be coming back, Steve, but my understanding was tonight we were just taking 3 lots and trying to create 4, or are we doing more than that?
Yeah,
Or
the subdivision's not on this discussion, it's just the site plan itself. The subdivision, because there's no dedication of land or right-of-way, it's just an in-house type thing, so that's why it's not on.
do we need to do that for recording with the county, or how does,
Yeah, when we get to that point,
okay.
this is just site plan review.
Thank you.
All righty. Thank you, appreciate it. I will accept a motion regarding this matter.
Can I make one comment before we do a motion? My thought is if the applicant has to come back to do a
Yes.
architectural plan anyway, would this delay their project at all if we just tabled it until that point? Not denying it, not approving it, but just maybe that gives a little bit more time to come back with some of the answers during that time period, because he's got to come back and present this,
Well,
the architectural plan.
I guess the only concern I would have is if you table it for why. You know, many of these aspects, parking-wise, if it's got a 2-car garage for each home,
Right there.
that's gone. If they provide a landscape plan and an irrigation plan, those are gone. If they just say, yeah, they'll have individual cans and someone will collect it, that's gone. So most of the items, as long as they provide some information on what it is, it's no longer an issue. So site-wise, yeah, it's not gonna harm them either way, because they still have to revamp their civil engineer plans to meet the DRC, but, tabling it or approving it doesn't necessarily harm them in any way of progressing. It's just,
If it gets tabled, they want to know that the site plan is approved before they move on. They don't
Right.
want to start putting in all the expenses to get all the architectural done.
Because most of these come together as one, usually, a lot of them come together with the architectural. And so
Usually.
that's, I'm just thinking
yeah,
out
but I
loud
mean,
there.
it can be separated, and, if you approve it based on, or conditioned with the staff's comments, because part of our approval is DRC comments are satisfied. We don't let projects get built until everything's been checked off anyway.
All righty, then is there a motion regarding this?
I move that we approve the site plan review of Spot Estates located approximately 4580 South, 1950 West, with the conditions as stated in the staff report.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
I
Aye. Any opposed?
You guys
Roll
were
call.
hesitant.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We'll move on to item number 5, which is to consider a request for architectural approval for King Buffet located at approximately 1960 West, 5700 South. Is the applicant for that here?
Nope.
Then I would accept a motion to table this to our next meeting.
Well, I can present at least, and you guys can have some questions.
That would be good.
Okay. This is the former Rite Aid building. They're not taking the entire thing. They're taking a good, I'd say, 2/3 of the space. But speaking with the building official, Rite Aid didn't take up the entire space anyway. There was already a a fireproof wall in there, so there's still, if you look, using someone's magic wand, King Buffet will take up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to the second gable, and then the open space is the last three. Rite Aid, for some reason, that's what they did as well. So the portion of the building that's being changed, because the question is I don't really see a difference, is this little gable here will have some changes to it. So as you notice, the wall plane here is the same, and then it dips back and then comes across. Within this gable, the middle section is indented. So when you look at the proposed, and it's hard to see, so again, in between the two columns, they're gonna fill it up, so you no longer can see through. They'll put some cultured stone on the columns as a wainscot, and then in between, so they can have a sign, they're gonna fill in that indented portion. So the vestibule, or the section that came back farther, will look like that, and the other one will just look like that. Culture stone wise, it'll just look like their Salt Lake location. They're not really gonna change the color of the stucco, because they don't wanna change the entire building. But the stone itself will be just kind of that natural culture. It'll probably be more grayish than tan, but it'll be very similar to this. So, staff would recommend approval, but it's coming down to you if you want to accept without a,
So they're not looking to put on a facade and make it flat, they're keeping the same structure?
correct.
Okay,
Yeah, it's just that one gable that's gonna change a lot.
yeah, they're just gonna fill in that,
Yeah, they'll fill
that
in
front area.
the void here, and then the void here.
Okay.
And have the stone in this column, and then fill in here, and stuff for everything else.
With
Okay.
entrances on either side, looks like possibly.
Do what?
With entrances on either side?
Yeah.
Possibly.
And how far over does it go?
The restaurant itself, keep shortening it to here.
Oh.
So this becomes just a bay of windows, very similar to that. So those doors will go away, but the windows, everything will look the same.
So not that that really matters with this, but are the other lots there, the other spaces there empty? Or is that
It's just empty.
empty at the moment?
I don't have a
If
problem
someone else
approving
wants
it
to
right
come
now.
in, they'll have to amend the storefront there
I
as
don't wanna
well.
hold them up any more than they need to.
I like them coming in.
Okay.
but-
Then, is there a motion regarding item number 5?
There is no requirement the applicant has to be here, so
Not yet.
if you feel comfortable with it, you can. If you don't, then you can table.
I move that we approve the architectural review of King Buffet located approximately 1960 West, 5700 South, with the conditions as stated in the staff report.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. Okay, we'll move on to item number 6, which is a continued discussion on the proposed form base code. Mr. Parkinson.
A couple meetings ago, we did have a presentation of what the code consists of. We were gonna have a follow-up work session, but it didn't happen. I decided to go to Reno for Thanksgiving, so I figured we'd put it on here so I can answer any questions you may have.
Are we still looking for the final report in February?
Which final report?
I thought we had a final report from our consultants regarding this.
Well, that was kind of an idea of when the general plan and the code would be done.
Be done?
Yeah, right now you've got the code in front of you, so they're ahead of schedule on that aspect.
Okay.
and just as an FYI, it doesn't pertain to this, I do have a rough draft of the general plan. Not for your review yet, but I'm still going through it, so.
Okay. Are we going to have a meeting, the second meeting this month? We're going to have a working meeting?
If you want it on Christmas Eve,
You might be alone.
Yeah.
You'll be alone.
I've already canceled it last January, so.
Okay, so the next meeting to discuss this would be possibly in January.
January. So my question is, you know, if you guys are comfortable with it, if you have questions, let's answer them now. If not, can we schedule this for a public hearing, the next meeting?
Personally, I'm comfortable with it. I'm ready to hear what the public says about it.
I agree.
I agree.
Me too. Do it.
Do you need a motion for that, Steve, or you just
No.
do it? Okay. Then it is consensus of the commission that we will schedule a public hearing on the form-based code.
Okay.
Okay. We will then move on to item number 7, and that's the election of chair and vice chair for the year 2020. Steve, this is your job.
Okay, so election for chair. Do I have any nominations?
Is there anyone that would like the position?
Yeah. Anybody like what have it?
I'd like to nominate Jason Spar.
I'll second that. If we have seconds on that.
For what, though? Like, I don't understand what we're doing, because I've never done this before.
You can
Like-
make a nomination for a chair, or if you guys don't want to nominate somebody else, someone can move to close the nominations, and Jason's it.
So
If
you-
somebody else gets nominated, then we will have a vote.
So you're nominating Jason for chair?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I second that with Dawn. I third that.
Chair Brand, do you have any desire to continue in that position?
I'm going to have a conference with my vice chair right now.
There is no vice chair. It was
Leland, wasn't it?
Leland.
Leland, yeah.
It's up to you if you want to stay there. We can nominate you as well and put it up to a vote.
We're good. He'd previously expressed that he wasn't all that interested in doing this from the meeting that I missed one time last year. And so I'm just checking to make sure that he's more comfortable now.
Any other nominations? To have a motion to close the
Aye.
nominations?
I motion that we close.
A second? To
I'll
close?
second it.
Okay. Well, there's no vote.
There's no other vote.
Jason, you're it.
Congratulations,
You're
sir.
it.
Okay, so nominations for vice chair.
I nominate Commissioner Brand for the vice chair.
I nominate Ryan.
Well, do we have a second for Brand?
Oh, sorry. See, that's why I'm in charge. Oh, I second. I don't know.
Do we have any other nominations?
I nominate Ryan.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any other nominations? Motion to close nominations? You can,
I can do that. Move to close the nominations.
A second.
okay, so if I can have Commissioner Brand and Kelly,
Remove themselves
yourselves
from
for a
the
minute.
premises.
you can go in that back room right there behind. You may still be able to hear, but I don't know. That's where the jury goes to deliberate, so. Okay, we have two nominations, Commissioner Brand and Commissioner Cowley. So all those in favor of Commissioner Brand as
That was,
vice chair.
we've nominated him as chair?
Someone,
Vice chair.
vice chair.
Oh, we're voting
You're
on the
chair.
vice chair.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
the chair, there's only one person. We don't need a vote.
You're the chair.
Oh, I got, okay, I'm with you now. Sorry.
So there was a nomination for Brand as vice chair. All those in favor? The other nomination was Cowley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just raise your hand.
Oh,
Okay. Someone want to knock on their door? We can
I guess just leave them in there.
do what?
Just leave them in there for a while.
Leave them in there for a minute. Okay, so as it was already concluded, Commissioner Spar will be the chair for year 2020, and the vice chair will be Commissioner Cowley.
Congratulations. Okay. All right, we'll move to item number 8, which is Commissioner's Minutes. Anybody have anything that they want to put on record?
I just want to say thank you for doing a great job as a chair this last year. You've done very,
Last 2 years, huh?
very well. I've only been here for a year and
Yeah.
a little bit of it, but
Here, here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I usually have a gavel that I can use, but, okay.
it's right there in front of you.
Yeah, I know, but I can't, I don't have the authority.
Just one time, come on.
Well, you do.
Okay, one time. Now I feel better. All right, anybody else have anything to say tonight? We'll move on to item number 9, staff update.
Kind of already updated you that I do have a rough draft of the general plan. The consultant has given it to me, just kind of look through it to make sure there's nothing glaring that's wrong or out of place, or, because I'm looking not just at content, but how it flows. Does the way they've presented it, something that I like or not like? We've also given it to both Public Works and Recreation to look at, because there's some big sections in there that talks about them, so I wanted to get their feedback. So hopefully within the next little while, we'll get that, we'll give it back to the consultant, and then we can bring it back to at least the steering committee to kind of review and go through. But I know the council's eager for it. They're also eager for the form-based code, so. We've had a big year for the city, so it'll be good to have those done.
Good.
Other than that, projects are on their way.
Good job. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.